Shout out to Tom Thorne for sending me this story. And this is basically Kyle being a Karen. And you're about to find out what I mean by this. And it's actually a story that's very familiar because it's echoing something that Karen has been known to typically do, especially when it comes to black men and falsifying reports. So you have coked out Kyle here, and he looks like he's on that stuff, but his real name is actually Gordon Ray Wood. And he basically claimed that, and it's always two, he claimed that two black men shot him. Turns out he was lying and the guy actually shot himself. Now let's hypothetically say he accidentally shot himself, because you know freak accidents will happen if you don't know how to handle your firearm. He could have just went to the hospital and, got that taken care of. And, if they ask, just flat out say, look, I accidentally shot myself, mishandling the gun. But instead of him doing that, he blamed two black men, which leads me to believe I don't think he been accidentally shot himself. I think he may have intentionally did it with the intent to want to falsely accuse two black men of doing this to him. I just recently, well, not recently, but in the last month, done two videos about one last month, another one a couple months ago. Again, two black men, with that woman with her son down in Florida. Again, last month with that woman with her kids, with the robbery. Again, two black men, and now you have this guy here. They do not go off script for nothing when it comes to that. And no, why is it always two? What is it about that number two? For some, something, a reason or something or other. But see, the thing is, the narrative in society has been painted that black men are the boogeyman, so it's easier to put the blame on them. But the thing is, that narrative has run its course. No one really goes for that narrative really anymore unless there's undeniable evidence that it can be proven that quote unquote two black men did this to you. So let me read this article and see what else we find out. A Westville man is facing multiple charges after accidentally shooting himself, and I'm going to put that in quotations, and then filing a false report with law enforcement. A deputy with the Holmes County Sheriff's Office responded to Wiregrass Medical Center in Geneva, Alabama on Tuesday, August 18th, in reference to a subject who arrived at the facility seeking care for a gunshot wound to the leg. The deputy made contact with the victim, 28-year-old Gordon Ray Wood of Westville, who stated he and his girlfriend were at the boat ramp on Vaughn Dead River Lane when a car occupied by two black males pulled up and the men attempted to rob him. And notice that's the thing they always do. They always pull up in some type of a vehicle with the attempt to rob. Now, I wonder what kind of vehicle did he describe? I bet you it was something on the lines of a black sedan or a black SUV, because it's always the color black and it's always a van of some sort, some kind of a truck. The victim went on to say one of the subjects had a gun and shot him in the leg. Investigators began looking into the case, and the lack of physical evidence at the scene, along with other aspects of the investigation, simply did not add up. See, this is what I mean when I tell you they are not far removed from their ancestors, because back then their ancestors could have easily gotten away with that, but nowadays they have technology to do these investigations. So why lie and come up with some story like that? And it's always black men that they use. They never use two white males or two Hispanic males or two Asian males. It's always two black men. Always, always, always. If it's any of the other ones that I mentioned, 9 times out of 10, it probably is them. But see, they use the black men narrative so much, and like I said, it's run its course and it's pretty much ran dry, that hardly nobody believes it anymore unless you can actually prove that it happened. And like Town Biz has said before on his channel, when it comes to stories like this needs to be seen as a hate crime. It does, because you are potentially putting black men lives in danger. And it could be any black men, because they could just say black men and not give a description. And usually when they do, it's always a stereotypical one. Oh, they had dreadlocks. Oh, they had cornrows. Oh, they had a little fro. They had a fade. You know, the usual styles that black men would wear. Then they'll go into what type of car they drove or what they had on. It's always the stereotype. It's almost like you're describing an early 2000s hip hop video. That's what it sounds like to me. Let's see. It says investigators began looking into the case, and the lack of physical evidence at the scene, along with other aspects of the investigation, simply did not add up. The cell phones of both the victim and his girlfriend were seized, and search warrants were conducted on both devices. Evidence of criminal activity was located on the phones, along with incriminating evidence and photos taken just days prior to the incident, which depicted the victim holding a gun like the one he described being shot with. Investigators confronted Wood with the evidence, and he confessed to shooting himself and then throwing the gun into the river. Wood is charged with making a false report to law enforcement, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and tampering with evidence. See, he's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon, which means he has a record of doing whatever to get him said record. And he puts himself into a more bigger predicament by doing this. You know what? This may sound harsh, but I don't care. I wish if he did, since he did shoot himself, too bad that bullet didn't hit an artery. I said it, and I mean it. It says other charges are pending in this case. Like, I don't understand what people is trying to gain from this. Like I said, it's an old, tired trope. No one's falling for it anymore unless there's something that can actually be proven. But see, the thing is, they look at what their ancestors have done, and even what some people in modern history have done, like, you know, in probably the last 10, 20 years have done, and seeing how they can do it and get away with it just so they can have a reason to say, see, these black people are so violent. This is, you know how white people came up with that term, that interracial crime, was saying 92% of the crimes are committed by black people. How much you want to bet most of those are falsified reports? Even though I don't believe that number for nothing, because I don't believe the number is remotely that high. Because that would mean that black people are just straight up savages, and we're just going out there attacking PC for no damn reason just because they're white. And that's not the case. But see, they have to put out that narrative that we are more savage than they ever could. Well, if you look back in history, and I'm talking about way back into history, so you don't even have to go that far back. If you want to compare savagery, y'all are winning by a landslide and then some.